Thank you, Chris. And once again, good afternoon. Chris has a visual image to share that's part of this devotion. And I'm just going to share a short devotion as we get started. Looking forward to gathering with you on the 17th and 18th, just a little less than 2 weeks from now, for our first in-person assembly since 2019. And we're gathering under the theme of good soil. And we will be letting the texts appointed for the day of Pentecost guide us, which will be the Sunday immediately following our assembly. And for this afternoon, I thought that we might focus on the text from Ezekiel 37. You might remember that that's Ezekiel's vision in which he's atop a high mountain and looking at a valley of dry bones, which represents the people of Israel. It's a desolate sight indeed, yet through Ezekiel's prophetic words, the dry bones are brought back to life, reminding us of the power of God to rejuvenate even the most barren of places. For the people of Israel, who were exiles at this time and alienated from their land, this imagery would have resonated deeply. Their connection to that land and that place, to the soil that sustained them, was foundational to their identity. They knew they were formed from the earth and that one day they would return to it. Our theme, Good Soil, invites us to reflect on the places that have shaped us, the landscapes that have nurtured our souls. It's about honoring the richness of our homelands and the unique ecosystems that provide us with sustenance and beauty every single day. And it's more than just about physical land, this theme of good soil. It also encompasses the communities that are rooted there and the relationships that arise from them and that sustain us. And so just as Ezekiel spoke life into the dry bones, we're called to cultivate environments in our communities where love and justice and grace can flourish. And so as we gather for this assembly, we remember our role as stewards of God's creation and also stewards of our communities of faith and of our communities where we live, as we tend the soil of our hearts with care and intentionality, nurturing growth and renewal. Let us pray. Gracious God, creator of all things, we thank you for the gift of this day and for the land beneath our feet. Help us to be faithful stewards of your creation, cultivating good soil in our lives and communities. Give us the courage to speak life into dry places and the wisdom to nurture relationships rooted in love and grace. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Julie Wilson. I work at Good Shepherd in Moorhead, and I am the chair of the Synod Assembly Planning Team and bring you greetings from our wonderful team. We have been busy working, and we're so excited to gather with you on the 17th and 18th. So we hope that today will help to answer any questions, help you to know where to find everything, to prepare you best for the assembly next week. So we're going to walk through several different things, but just a reminder that the Synod Assembly is the first time we've gathered in person since 2019. And it's a time that we're going to worship together. We are going to do the important work of the business of the assembly and of the synod that needs to happen every year. And then there will be lots of time for fellowship with one another. And so we thank you for carving time today, but also for making that time next week for us to gather.
So, like Deacon Julie said, we will be tending to some of the business of the synod, and some of that will involve some voting and some elections. So I just wanted to do a run through of some of the things that we will be voting on. And we will have some time to walk through those things a little bit more closely. First, Sharon Josephson, our wonderful Vice President, will talk later about our consent agenda. We have a resolution on the compensation guidelines Bishop Bill will speak to later. We have a budget, a treasurer's report, that Treasurer Pastor Chris Eldridge is unable to be with us today, but we will do our best to speak to that. He is in our audit meeting, which is another important thing for our Synod Assembly. But one thing I wanted to make sure I shared with you is our ballot. So here is our from our Synod Assembly handbook, and our ballot right now for Synod Council conferences, we have an uncontested ballot. One thing about this year's assembly is that we have open nominations from the floor. The past 4 years, we haven't had that opportunity, just being virtual and having 4 locations last year. That would be too difficult to do. But this year, since we're all together, we will be having the ability to take nominations from the floor, but there will be a process to that Vice President Sharon will speak to. But right now, we have a ballot for our conferences. We have our the only contested ballot right now for election for Synod Council is our young adults. And then we have a discipline committee, which is 1-term, 6-year role, and those people are called on when needed, and they're not all called on for each matter, but it's an important role that we have. And then this year we get to bring it to Churchwide Assembly next year, people to serve on the ELCA Churchwide Council, and Vice President Sharon will speak to that a little bit more. Then the next ballot, which Deacon Julie will speak to in a little while, is our Churchwide Assembly. And so next summer in Phoenix, because everyone wants to spend the summer in Phoenix, Arizona, we will be having our triennial Churchwide Assembly, and we get an allotted number of people who can go, lay and rostered, and all of that. And so right now we have a full slate, and we need the only contested as of right now is our person of color, who is Hote Jensvold from Trinity in Detroit Lakes. Everything else will be an election where you will pick 3 or 4 depending on that. We will have bios available online. That's just something that's been on the back burner a little bit for me, but they hopefully will be up hopefully by the end of Wednesday, but don't quote me on that. And so that's what we're voting on. I think I'm going to toss the baton back to Deacon Julie.
All right, first we're gonna just take a deep breath. We are gonna try practice our electronic voting. We had this same meeting last night and it went so well. And so we know it's a new thing, but we want you to know that the system we're using, there are many ELCA assemblies around our area that are using the same voting platform. And so we think that it's a great one and will really help us out, especially as we move into next year with the bishop election. This is kind of our prep year to get us ready for that. So some housekeeping. You are going to need your phone or an iPad or another browser window. And so Chris is going to show a slide of the link. The company is called vPoll. And so there's 2 ways that you can access it. And again, you'll use your phone or your iPad, you can, or a browser, you can either scan the QR code that you see on the screen, and that's going to take you right to our Good Soil meeting page for today. If you would just stop there, not enter your last name or anything, if you would just pause there, that would be, oh, Chris, if you could, there we go. It just went to your email, sorry. And then the other thing you can do is that first box, it says visit vpoll.mobi. So if you do not scan the QR code, you would just type that into your browser, which again, you can do from any of your devices. And then it will say, join a meeting, and you'll see there's a little box there that says, enter the access code. And it is not case sensitive, so you can do capital or lowercase NWMN24. And if you click on that, you should get to a screen that is going to ask you for some credentials. If you would just pause there for us all to get on the same page, that would be great. I'm just going to kind of scroll through here. Now's a great time that if you're having a hard time to just unmute yourself. Has everyone gotten to that first page? So I'm just going to sign in here to show me. Okay. So, Anne, are you using a phone or a browser window? If you maybe have Terry mute his, that might help because you're both on. Okay, as they're going, so you should see, if you guys can see my little square, something that says welcome to the Northwest Minnesota Synod Assembly Business Meeting. Can you give me a thumbs up if that's what you see? Anyone? Are people, I can't see. Okay, I see a couple thumbs up. Those of you that aren't there, where are we stuck? Sherry, I see you gave me a no. You're muted. If you could just unmute yourself and then.
I'm just watching with Anne.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, actually, your pictures are over the QR code. So it's not reading that, and I put in the website, and it's bringing me up all kinds of things. It doesn't go directly to the access code.
Okay, so you typed in vpoll.mobi. You don't even need a www.
Yeah, the site comes up, but it's not quite right here. Let's see.
Okay, is this what you see, the join a meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so then where it says join a meeting, it should say enter access code. And you're going to type NWMN.
Okay. And I'm sorry, it's not quite the same thing. I'll try again here.
No, that's not the right page.
You said it, the welcome. I do have the welcome.
So you'll see there's the V.
There we go.
Okay, so then we should get to, it says welcome. And then you're going to see a square for last name. So if you type your last name in there, and then click on the box, select polling session, and you'll see there's an option for Sunday or Monday. Today is Monday, so you're going to actually click on the Monday so that the Monday business meeting fills in that box. It's a drop-down menu. And then you'll hit submit. Your next screen should say, question will be broadcast shortly. So if you are there, you pause. We'll get everyone, well, you can't do anything else. We'll get everyone else caught up. Perfect. That's what you should see. And I will go through here. If folks are having, yes, I see a couple thumbs up. That's lovely. See, this is so great. Way to learn new things. This is awesome. All right, so we are going to get started. The first, there's a couple different ways we will be voting. The first is just a simple yes, no. We are going to vote on the consent agenda for today's meeting, which we did not give you. So please approve today's consent agenda. And so if you just, Chris has there what you should see on your screen. And you can vote, you can change your vote as many times as you want, but when you hit submit, you cannot go back. So then your answer is saved. I'm gonna just watch votes coming in. Good job, everyone.
Pastor Daphne, were you able to get there?
Yes, everything's fine.
Okay, good.
All right, so it looks like we have several coming in. So I'm gonna give you one more second, two more seconds.
Julie?
Yes.
Sorry. Because we both have the same last name. I couldn't vote because
Okay.
Harry had already done it.
So
it came up you
here's
have
our,
already voted.
yes, thank you. This is a super, I'm gonna pause where we're at right now. For today's meeting, we just had you enter your last name. And so that is a snafu for today. But at the assembly, you all will have to enter your name, and then you're gonna be given an ID number. That number will be on the back of your name tag. And so when you sign into Zoom for the Friday night, the first time we vote, you will have to enter both of those as your credentials. And so you will be given that on when you register. And that's just kind of an extra layer. For this meeting, we didn't know who was going to be on when, so we weren't able to do all those numbers. So I just did last names, and unfortunately, we just learned that that doesn't work. So there's another level that will help you identify who you are. So thank you for that, and I apologize. You can take turns voting. All right, so I am going to close the vote here, and let's broadcast, oopsies, the results. You should see them. Okay, why were you not letting me? See the results, broadcast results, hopefully. Why aren't you letting me? Okay. Take two, sorry. They should appear on your screen. Why aren't they doing that? There we go. So Chris has them there. Oh, you have different ones. Okay, we're gonna go to the next question. I don't know what happened. It had me reload the page. So we're gonna go to question 2, which is another yes, no. And why isn't it sharing? Are you getting oh yeah. People are voting. I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. All right, I'm going to close the vote. And then
Mine didn't come up.
oh, your question?
I didn't get the question on mine.
Oh. Did you get the first question?
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
And now it's just answer successfully saved.
Okay. Huh. Did that happen to anyone else? Based on the number of votes, it looks like many of you got to vote. Okay, so Jill, let's see. We're going to go to question 3. For this one, we're going to practice an election style vote. And so this will be for the churchwide assembly. You will vote it'll say like pick 3 or pick 4. And you'll only be able to pick that amount. And in fact, your vote won't be submitted until you pick that amount. So your vote, if you just pick 1, it won't let you submit it until you pick 3. And so we're going to broadcast for this election. We're going to have you, I'm going to make sure, pick your favorite TV shows, top 3. And you'll see again that you can change your answer. And if you don't know any of these, just pick 3 that maybe sound familiar. And then submit your answer.
And possibly, if you're not getting the question, you might hit refresh to refresh your browser. That might be one way to troubleshoot. I saw that the Schwangers, up in Roseau didn't get the second question as well. So if you're
That
not
helped
getting,
me.
Oh,
What?
perfect.
Chris, that did help me refresh.
okay,
This is
good,
Jill.
good. So Schwangers, are you seeing this one? Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Good.
when you hit
Thank you.
refresh, it shouldn't knock you out of the session since you've signed in. Oh, this is fun. See, I get to watch them as they're coming in, which is very fun. All right, this is surprising to me. Are we ready? Let's do 5 more seconds. At the assembly, we will make sure we give you enough time, but for sake of your time for today's meeting, I am going to close the vote. And Cheers. Who knew Cheers was going to come out on top? This is amazing. Very fun. All right. So maybe, Chris, if you would just stop sharing, that way I can see. We will do this at each of the plenaries on at the assembly for each of the votes. Again, the last one, the elections, will be the most complicated when we have to pick, but otherwise they're the yes, no, pass, decline. And so if you sign in like you did today, again, you'll have that name tag with your ID credentials. There will be a few extra iPads around if you do not, if someone that you're with does not have a device, all of you do because you're all here, which thank you for being here. And there will be people around to help troubleshoot as well. So, but you did it. I think this is a great first start, and it'll be that much easier when we are together at Concordia. There will be Wi-Fi available. Also, it works if you're just using your data, but know that there will be Wi-Fi available. So, are there any questions? I thought that was great. Good job, everyone.
Okay, I'm the vice president, and I think it's rather amazing and amusing that Bishop Bill and I were elected in 2019, and this will be our first in-person assembly. We've had to cancel one. We had to have one sort of via Zoom. We've had different kinds of ways of voting and discussing. So this one will be a new, exciting adventure. And I was going to tell you, maybe Julie didn't tell you, but all of you are going to be health personnel. No, I'm just kidding, okay? Because that's all the pressure you'd need is to have to help another 100 people learn how to do this voting system. So first of all, we are going to be following Robert's Rules of Order like we have in the past. And that means we will also be having the 3 cards in your physical packet when you get to the assembly. There'll be the green card, the red card, and the white card. And so you'll be able to ask questions like you did in the past. You'll be able to have discussion like we've had in the past. So hopefully there'll be much more interaction that way during the business meetings than we've had via technology in the past 4 years, 3 years. And so that's good to know. You'll be using the white card for inquiries. Those means like parliamentary procedure. If you have a question about why we're doing something, the way that we're doing it, you can use that white card. If you have a point of personal privilege, if you have a point of information, you can use that card during the discussion to ask those kinds of questions. You'll also be able to use that red and the green card, not for voting, hopefully. This technology will work beautifully, but if we have to have a fallback, we'll have the red card and the green card. If you want to speak against a resolution, you can hold up that red card when you go to the microphone. And if you want to speak in favor, you can use the green card. So it'll be very much like the physical assemblies that we've had in the past. Okay, so that's sort of good and refreshing. I was hoping that maybe we'd have people that would say, boy, you know, I've really wanted to talk. I've really wanted to say something, but the technology has sort of stifled me. And now when we come to the assembly in person, you'll be able to express your opinion. There'll be two major items of business. The first item, which I consider to be very, very important, is the election of people to fill certain positions. The first one will be the election of the people that serve on the Synod Council. They are nominated by the conferences, but they are ratified by the Synod Assembly. There will be an opportunity to make nominations from the floor after each of those elections. So just know that you'll have that opportunity. All you have to do is go to the microphone and make sure that that individual is from the conference that you're nominating for, and that they fulfill either a layperson role or a clergy role. The other items that are going to be up for election, we are so fortunate this year that we're going to be able to nominate a person to, well, actually it's two people, to serve on the national church-wide church council. We have not had an opportunity to provide names for 12 years. So this is rather an important election. We have two people that are being nominated at this point. Both of them will stand for election at the church-wide assembly in 2025. Okay, so that election will take place there, just like we elect the people from the conferences. The next item, of course, the discipline committee is extremely important. That has to be filled with good people every year, just in case. And then, of course, we're also going to be electing people to go to church-wide assembly from Northwest Minnesota Synod. And you'll notice that there are more people in each of the categories than what we can vote for. All of the people that are not elected will serve as alternates. And the experience is, for the last two assemblies, alternates have been seated on the floor because it's a long time between now and 2025. So every position that we have standing for election is extremely important. You can nominate people for any of those positions. It'll be open for nominations, just like an ordinary parliamentary procedure. Also know that you will be receiving biographies, a little bit of data about every person who's standing for election. So you'll be able to make a much more informed decision, and Chris will have those biographies up before the assembly. So don't worry about that one. So the elections will be handled electronically. The discussion at the microphones will be handled just like ordinary, everyday parliamentary procedure. The other items that we will have two resolutions. Now, in the past, we many times had resolutions that would take an hour to discuss. Sometimes there were resolutions that would be turned over to the Synod Council to actually review and deal with after the assembly closed. But this year, we only have two. Either that means things are going very, very well, or you folks don't have any opinions. Oh, shouldn't have said that. Okay, but if you have something that's a burning need that you would like to have a resolution brought to the floor of the assembly, there is a process for doing that. However, the 60 days time period where you're supposed to turn in your resolutions have already passed. And according to our standard policy, it's a much different kind of process that we go through to have a resolution on the floor, but you can do it. Come and talk to me, or you can email me or get a hold of the Synod office. But there is a process for doing that. The compensation guidelines will also come forward, and you'll also have the budget that will come forward to have a vote. Discussion will be welcomed on either and both of those. The reason why we're doing this year, because it doesn't look like we have a lot of business to work with electronic voting and so forth. The reason why we're doing this is in preparation for the 2025 Synod Assembly, which is going to be once again very important, just as they all are. But we'll also be electing a bishop at the 2025 Synod Assembly. And there's a process. We actually will start the process for the election of the bishop at the close of this assembly. And that process runs for an entire year. If you remember back when we elected Bill, we went through the whole process of nomination, and then we went through the process of having visitations and going around. All those kinds of things will still need to happen according to our Constitution. So that's one of the reasons we're doing this. And so the other thing that we have to do is in preparation is sort of a self-study, looking at a strategic plan. Because if you remember correctly, we've been operating under a strategic plan that you folks authorized 4 years ago. And we've been making our financial decisions based on that strategic plan, our programming decisions based on that strategic plan. And so now when we're coming up to 6 years, it's time to look at those things once again. So we're sort of excited about all of this happening, but there's one more question that people ask all the time, because the first vote that we take at the Synod Assembly is the most confusing one. It's called the consent agenda. So if you're used to using parliamentary procedure, you usually have, the call to order, you usually have the roll call, then you have the secretary's report, treasurer's report, all of those kinds of things, including the standard rules that we've been using, will all be taken in one vote, okay? That's what a consent agenda is. Those are all usual and customary. That can be discussed, but usual and customary will come with one vote. So, and if you, the first year we tried this, probably 10 years ago, there were a lot of questions, but this does sort of streamline the entire process. And most of the reports have either been printed or have been reviewed by the Synod Council in advance. So those are pretty much all the kinds of things that you'll be facing as you get to the Synod Assembly. And just know, we've got a lot of backup. We've got those red and the green cards. So if we totally mess up, Julie, we'll be able to fall back on paper, if nothing else. So thank you so much. And thank you for attending this afternoon. And thank you to the staff and all the volunteers who have made this Synod Assembly possible.
Thank you, Sharon. That was beautifully done. Like I said last night, I wish I could be that concise. Thank you. I'm going to try, though. Here we go. I am going to visit with you about a couple of the items that we'll be voting on, going into a little bit more detail. And normally, for one of these items, our treasurer, Pastor Chris Eldridge, would guide you through the budget and the financial reports. But he is meeting with our auditors right now, so that we'll be able to report that we have thoroughly reviewed the audit report that you will see at Assembly. And so if he comes in during my talk, then I'll let him take over. But otherwise, you got me to review the financial reports with. But before we do that, let's take a look at, and Chris is going to show you how we get here. But once we get there, you'll learn how to get to this part where we have lots of the reports and the things that will be voted on at Assembly. And I want to look at the compensation guidelines resolution. This is the only resolution per se. We will have other actions to take to vote on, which Sharon outlined. But as far as resolutions, this is the only one so far, and likely to be the only one, because the process for introducing resolutions after the 60-day deadline is pretty onerous. So you have to get a 2/3 vote of the assembly to allow you to offer a new resolution, but it's not impossible and can be done. Anyway, here we are, and I am the staff person that works with the Salary and Compensation Guidelines Committee. And full disclosure, this year we did not have a face-to-face or even a Zoom meeting. We just met via email. And the reason for that is because we decided that our guidelines have undergone significant changes over the last 5 years, and that maybe this year was a good time to not have such significant changes. And so this year you can see by the resolve, or let's look at the whereas that begins at line 16, which summarizes the changes. The 2025 guidelines contain the following changes. Provide a 3% cost of living adjustment to the base salary charts. I'd add guidance on Minnesota's safe and sick law. And 3, SAM guidelines have incorporated changes from previous year's guidelines that were not reflected in the SAM guidelines going forward, and editorial changes to page numbering and table contents. So really the only substantive change was the item 1 there, the 3% cost of living. Everything else is adding information or bringing some things up to date. And so then you have your resolution. Now, this resolution refers to the guidelines, but they're not in the whereases or in the resolution itself. Instead, if you want to actually look at the guidelines, you'll have to come back here to this page, and here you find the guidelines. All of those guidelines listed there are also listed here, in case you want to check our work and make sure that what we've done is exactly what we're saying we've done in the resolution. So I will stop sharing and see if there's any questions about that resolution. Seeing none, I'm going to share again. If I can find it, there it is. Yeah. Okay, now you should be back and seeing this application. I'm going to focus our attention to these bottom 3 items, and you will eventually see a 4th, and I'll refer to that in just a second. So Pastor Chris likes to point out, and I think it's really helpful, that some terminology is important to know. For our fiscal year, we name our fiscal year based on the year in which the year ends. And because our fiscal year begins on February 1st and not January 1st, it seems like we're always 1 year ahead with the name of our fiscal year. So for example, this year, here we are in 2024, but the fiscal year is called fiscal year 2025 because it ends in 2025. And so what you have here, here's the annual budget for all funds. And this is basically how we ended fiscal year 2024, or fiscal year 2025, right? So this is how we ended last year. The year that ended on January 31st, 2024. That's can't be right. It must be January 2025. Yeah. So this is the year that ended last year on the end of January of 2025. And this shows you, we'll just have to retitle that. This has the wrong title. This shows you how we ended that year, what we budgeted and what our actuals were. And you can see that we had planned to end the year in arrears. We knew we were going to spend some of our net assets, and we ended up spending significantly more. About 25,000 of that 80,000 was a car that was purchased because we were spending so much money on mileage for our director for evangelical mission that we knew we could save money by buying a car. And then also the rest of this, though, is we is accounted. The reason for the shortfall there is because mission support was down from what we had projected. And so that's the report for fiscal year 2025. Now, if you look at here, the budget comparison, the last one, this shows you our current year budget for FY 2025. That's the year we're in right now, and this is what we're operating with. This is the revised budget for this current year. So that means that for this year, the budget that was the proposed budget that was approved last year in this column, the second column, gets changed a few times by the Synod Council throughout the year, and especially right after we receive your statements of intent, when we find out what mission support is actually projected to be from congregations. Then we go in and we revise that based on new information. So this is the revised budget for 2025. And then this is the proposed budget for 2026. And this is the one you'll be asked to vote on, to approve. And you'll notice that in both of these years, we're making an effort to replenish some of those net assets that we fell behind on in last year. So if you want to see a quick and easy summary of how we're doing financially, you can click on this one right here. I'll just show you the year-end summary, cash on hand, and that'll give you a nice quick summary of how we finished the year. You'll see we ended the year with $80,000 less in net assets, and our goal is to, over the next couple of years, to get that back up to just around $200,000. So I will stop sharing and see if there's any questions.
So that you don't become panicked when you look at those numbers. Neither the bishop nor the treasurer nor anyone else is in a panic. Their hair hasn't turned white. So it means that this is all usual and customary, the way that we're operating. And there are reserve funds that have been used to underwrite some of these. And also there is part of the strategic plan was the programming I talked about, and some of those dramatic increases of 25% and so forth reflect that new kind of programming that we're going to be doing, but there's also an underwriting of revenue that's coming in for that programming. Bill, why don't you tell them a little bit about that, the development officer?
Sure, thank you, Sharon. We have received a generous gift to the Northwestern Minnesota Synod from an anonymous donor that fully underwrites a full-time development staff person for 2 years, and then underwrites partially for the 3 more years after that. So it's a 5-year gift that's intended to fund a pilot project that we're doing in partnership with the development team of the churchwide organization. This is we're the only synod doing this pilot. Those of us involved with it believe that it could become a transformational way for us to do church together in the future. And basically it involves a development professional working for our synod full-time, working to invite growing generosity from individuals, not congregations, but individuals, for all 3 expressions of our church, for your congregation, for the synod, and for the churchwide organization. And we believe that through our partnership with the churchwide organization, with their very robust development team, their ability to provide expert support and guidance and coaching, and also, frankly, the access that we will now have to the ELCA's development and donor data will help make this pilot successful where other synods really have not been able to succeed in the past. So we're excited about this as a way to help all of us grow in our in the way that we can support our mission as congregation and as churchwide and as synod. And so if you when you look at our budget, you'll see there are for both this year, FY25, and next year, FY26, we do expect some revenue from that position to partially underwrite our operating budget. other resources that we raise. You'll not see landing in the budget. You'll see them in other places in financial reports and in the audit report that goes toward dedicated or donor-directed projects. So does that answer the question, Sharon?
I think so. And just hear that again. It's going to benefit not only the synod, it's going to benefit churchwide, it's going to benefit your local congregation, may benefit Oak Grove, Concordia, Luther Seminary. There'll be a smorgasbord of ways to people can give. And so it is a pilot project. It will be fun to watch and see how this grows. But once again, good work, all of the staff.
Thank you. I think that's all from me. I think it's time for Chris to talk a little bit about worship.
Hey, everyone. One of my favorite parts about being together as a synod is worship. As many of you on today are pastors, deacons, Sams, you're often leading worship, but it is so great to worship together. We will be worshiping together at 9 on Saturday morning. Bishop Bill will be preaching and presiding, and we will be doing a SAM commissioning. We have so many SAMs in our synod, and we've had many SAMs serving synod authorized ministers, serving for many years. And so we are doing a celebration of SAMs this year. Those who have been serving and those who are new, and it will be a wonderful part of that worship. And so that is a wonderful highlight, and we look forward to worshiping together. Bishop Bill, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. So I get to introduce our speakers. In addition to those that are speaking, myself and Sharon and others that will be speaking. We also have our keynote and our churchwide representative, and I'll just share my screen real quick. Our keynote speaker will be Pastor John Anderson. Pastor Anderson was the bishop of the Southwestern Minnesota Synod for 18 years and has been serving since 2021 as the director for rural ministry at Luther Seminary. We have been working more and more closely with Luther, especially around our training and formation of our synod authorized ministers. And this has really become a strategic partnership for us and is only going to grow. And so we felt it would be great to have Pastor John. It also ties in great with our theme of good soil. Pastor John has deep roots here in Minnesota, having grown up on a family farm that's been in his family since the 1850s, and has a deep love for the soil of these places there where we live. So we're looking forward to hearing from him as both our keynote and our Bible study leader. And then our leader from Churchwide, our representative who will bring the Churchwide report, is Jill Beverlin, and she serves as the ELCA Program Director for Coaching Ministries. I've known both John and Jill for probably around 20 years, and both are fantastic leaders. Jill has a real passion for coaching for the church, and it will come across when you hear her speak. She's gifted, and looking forward to hearing from her. And Jill's lives in Appleton, Wisconsin. So we have that connection because I'm from a little town in Wisconsin called, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, it's called Green Bay. Anybody ever hear of Green Bay, Wisconsin? That's where I'm from. And she's from just up the road in Appleton. So that's all.
I've never heard of Green Bay, Bishop Bill. I don't know. So one thing I didn't put on the agenda that I just realized is workshops. We will be having workshops after lunch on Saturday, and a wonderful variety of workshops. Pastor John and Jill will be leading workshops. We're gonna have a workshop on, Julie, you can chime in anytime. I can't, my
Yeah,
brain is floated away.
There will be a room for some prayer and meditation. There's going to be a hike at one of the local parks in town. Did you say the coaching? There's going to be a gathering on the social statement. And there's 9 different choices. So you've,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that will be part of that. And now I am going to share with you how to find the information. So last week, we sent out a mailing on 1 copy of things to each congregation. And to the congregation mailing address. So every church should have that by now. I'm hoping with the way mail is, but everything you need is also here on the website. So you can go to our website, nwmnsynod.org. And this is our homepage. And if you scroll down, here is our Synod Assembly. It says click here for information, for registration and for more information. So you click there and it will bring you to this site. So first here, some downloads. The Synod Assembly Handbook is a wonderful resource. It has information about the speakers. That's what Bishop Bill was showing you. It has the ballots. It has terminology. It has a letter from Bishop Bill, a letter from presiding Bishop Eaton, just a lot of the ins and outs. And then here we have some information on how we vote and how we do things. And that is that here. This is how many voting members each congregation can bring. So here, I'm going to go up here, Synod Assembly business items, things we will be voting on. So here you saw this with Bishop Bill. So these are all the things that there will be a vote on, right? Aptly named. And so there is all of this was in the mailing except for the compensation guidelines. We didn't print those out to save paper for creation and to save on postage. But please make sure you look at the one that pertains to your congregation for sure. And maybe glance through a couple other ones. Bishop Bill mentioned that the SAMS compensation guideline was changed the most, updated the most. So these are all the things that will be voted on, and there'll be a 4th financial report going on there. And of course, that wasn't in me. And we have, I couldn't see the top of my screen because of my share stuff. And then one more page to show you Synod Assembly reports. Here we have Bishop Bill's report, and then here is Bishop report part 2. I'm just going to show you this one. This is a report of all of the things that happened at our synod. So installations, commissionings, all of the Synod Council calls, retirements. So there is that. Also, we have computer is being slow. Tired. We have Pastor Janelles, our associate to the bishop, Pastor Rebels, our director of evangelical mission. These reports were all in the mailing. And then I put these reports up today. These are partner reports. And we still have some more to be put up along with the rest of the staff reports. So here you will find all the things you need for Synod Assembly. And now I'm gonna toss her back to Deacon Julie.
I have just a few things and we'll get you guys on your way before 2 p.m. I promise. Just a couple of last minute tips for you. If you have been to the Synod Assembly in the past, we've met in Memorial Auditorium, the gym, and we are not meeting there this year. So if you go there, you will not find us. We are going to meet in the Knutson Campus Center, which is closer to the bell tower. And that is where all of our stuff will be taking place. So there's the arrow of where to park. And so if you take the one way going north on 5th Street, you will see there's a parking lot. It's labeled G2, and there you can park. And then it's just a short sidewalk walk into the Knutson Campus Center. You will find hospitality volunteers in bright green, not Green Bay Packer green, but like bright green, the better color green shirts. And they will be there to help guide you and show you where to go, answer any questions. So look for those shirts, look for that parking, and know that there's going to be lots of people around and signs to help guide you where to go.
Deacon Julie,
Yes.
we didn't mention this last night, but Oak Grove High School will be on campus that Friday. So parking might be a little tight, but we will have more details about that coming up in emails.
Yes. So, yeah, if you want to plan to still go to that G2, we're hoping that the students will be they're meeting on campus for the month of May, but we will plan to go to that G2 lot and we will direct you otherwise. We have a hospitality video coming out this week to help answer any questions. And then the website has so much information. So before you think to call or email the Synod office, if you would pause and look online or in your emails, I am sure that your question has already been answered. And that would help the Synod staff in these 2 weeks leading up to the assembly that are very, very full for them. So obviously they are happy to help answer your questions, but if you can find it online or in an email first, that helps us all out. So make sure you keep reading Chris's emails. There will be some more coming up. The website has so much information and we really are so excited to gather together. So let's pray. Good and gracious God, thank you for this day. I give you thanks for all of the folks who are here on this call and for everyone in our synod who will be gathering together. God, I pray that you would grant us safe travels and just bless our time together, that it would be holy time in your name to grow in fellowship, to ask hard questions, to laugh, and to worship together. God, we give you thanks for the opportunity to be a part of your work here in the Northwest Minnesota Synod. So thank you for this time today. Bless all of us as we go on our way. Amen. Thank you all. Blessings. We'll see you on the 17th.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.